Welcome to Hello Chaos, the weekly podcast exploring the messy and chaotic lives and minds of founders and entrepreneurs and innovators. Today on our show, we've got our guest, Suzannah Raff, the founder and CEO of Cleo and Coco. Welcome, Suzannah. Welcome to the chaos.
Very familiar with the chaos. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. Well, just start us out. Get everybody level set on who you are and how did you get started with Cleo and Coco?
So I am the founder, CEO of Clio and Coco. We are a clean personal care brand. I launched the brand 4 or 5 years ago. And before that, I had a master's in business and did a lot of business consulting, especially in the tech world. And I had really this vision. I had really driven by a personal need that really started many, many years before I launched my brand. And that was, when I was first pregnant, my mother said to me, don't put aluminum under your arms. And then, like most pregnant women, I was starting to read ingredients and look at what I was putting onto my body, and I became much more health conscious, and I didn't want to use synthetic fragrance either, and I just couldn't find any deodorant that actually worked and that didn't contain synthetic fragrance. And then I noticed that there were just a lot of personal care brands that everything just still contained synthetic fragrance, and I didn't want to use it. And so over the years, the idea started to percolate, and 5 years ago I jumped in. I said, I am ready. There is a tremendous need for really to really clean up the personal care aisle. Aluminum free was a great first step, but we need to just take this so much further and make things work and truly clean, higher level of clean. So 5 years in. 5 years into the chaos.
So you went into like formulation and all that of the development of these like a clean. When you say no, did you start with deodorants or did you start with fragrances?
So we are deodorants.
Okay.
We're really, it's a lot of personal care. So we have stick deodorant, powder deodorant, spray deodorant. We have soaps. And we do something very different. Our fragrances are incredible, but they're not synthetic fragrance. They're really using the natural butters and oils.
You are totally speaking to me. I've been trying to lecture my teenage daughters, or I have a 24-year-old, but I have a 13-year-old daughter who, buys whatever. And the smell is just overwhelming for me because I have tried almost every clean, no aluminum. It's hard to find something that does work, or that's not that's long lasting.
Yes.
That. Yeah.
It's a struggle, and it's still a struggle for many people until they find Cleo and Coco. So it was a struggle for me, and very, very sensitive to synthetic scents. And I always say it's kind of like when somebody eats processed food and sugar substitutes all the time, they don't notice it. But if you go on like a Whole30 diet and you start to eat really clean and you cut out all the processed foods and you cut out all of the fake sugars and all of that, the minute your tongue tastes that stevia, it's really, really strong. You notice it right away, and it's off. You don't like it.
Right.
So it's the same thing when you eliminate the synthetic fragrance from your routine and you're not used to smelling it. When you smell it,
it is like it knocks me back.
Yeah. So the synthetic fragrances contain thousands and thousands and thousands of potentially toxic chemicals. They're known to be hormone disruptors. They could contain neurotoxins, carcinogens, and they're in every single one of our personal care products still today. Yet people are really, and I also have, I started thinking about all of this when I was pregnant, and today I have teenagers, and and they all need and use deodorant. and I can't even imagine giving them synthetics,
Yeah.
that any of
Yeah.
that synthetic fragrance, any of those chemicals today. So they only wear Cleo and Coco and all of their friends and all of their
Yeah.
school
And
also.
I don't think people, I would say the trend is getting larger I guess more widespread. I'll tell you, I don't think people realize how much what they ingest or what they put on their body, how it does influence hormones. So I'll tell you a story. So this will be new for Chandler too. I don't think he's heard all my stories, but so my daughter, who's 24 today, when she was
Oh, happy
5 years
birthday.
old, when she was 5, we went to like their 5-year-old checkup, getting ready for kindergarten and all that, and she we were whatever the tests were, she was like, "Oh, I think your daughter's probably she's on track to start her period in like 12 to 18 months." And
And 5 years
it like
old.
jarred me, and I was like, What?" And I said, "That means you're talking about when she is 6 or 7 years old? What in the, like, what is happening?" And it almost like startled our own pediatrician, who like then looked at this girl and she was like, "Oh God, you're right. Like, why?" So she went down a deep dive for me and sent me all these articles in like the Journal of Health and Pediatrics and all this, and had showed the trends of menstrual cycles. I grew up in the 70s. It was average was like what was it, 13 years old was the average, and it stayed that same through the 90s. And then they started seeing that the late 90s, 2000 generation, it had gone from like an average of 12 to 13 to average start of a menstrual cycle of 8 years old. And it was because of all the hormones injected in our chicken, our dairy. And this was before organic anything was really readily available. And she said, so she called us back in and she goes, "How much dairy and poultry products do you guys consume on a weekly?" I'm like, "God, we eat yogurt every day. We probably go through 2 gallons of milk a week between our us and our kids. We probably eat chicken and we eat eggs." I was like, we're doing that 2, 3, 4 times a week. And she said, "Do me a favor. I know she goes, I just want to test something." She said, "For an entire month." I'm sorry, and I missed what sparked the conversation of what was happening with Sophia, my daughter. She was smelling like cooked onions
Yep.
out of her skin.
Yep.
That's what I was like, I bathe her. By the time, it's like within hours, she smells of cooked onions. Like
Yes.
a BO of an adult male sweating in a gym that has never used deodorant. I mean, it was this like really pungent odor and that's why she was like, "Oh, well, that's a sign she's gonna start her period." That's what the alarm was. So she was like, "Do me a favor. I know it's going to be probably expensive, but go find, only consume and buy anything organic, anything that buy anything that says no hormones, no like anything injection." At that time, I think a gallon of organic milk, like at the grocery store, was $10. I mean, it was to get like a package of no hormone chicken, was like 12. I mean, it was just it wasn't accessible, but we did it. We did an entire month. And also we told her not to get the milk at school. Literally within days, we could tell a difference. Not even a month. We could tell, so at that time, that was, almost 20 years ago, we went totally organic in our household, trying to find farms that we could get, less expensive dairy products for us. But yeah, we were like, no processed, we're going to do no hormone, because it really kind of jolted us to go, oh my, like this is, we're ingesting this. And then I'm like you, I'm like, we tried everything of not just what we put in our bodies, but what we put on our bodies. And I just, I'm so sensitive now to the taste, the smells. I can tell when or my kids have had when they've gone like to sleepovers or camps or whatever, and they're not eating the same type of foods, they have an odor when they come back home. And so, yeah, totally with you.
Wow. That's an amazing story. You're a very good doctor. So
Yeah,
we get emails from customers all the time. My 11-year-old, my 9-year-old has this really, really bad odor, and we wash her, we shower. What's going on? It's all hormones, and
yep,
it's hormones, and it's hormones coming from the hormones that we are ingesting,
that's right.
and then there's also hormones. Well, there's hormone disruptors
Right.
in the phthalates and parabens and fragrance in all of our products. So yes, wow,
Yeah,
that's an amazing story because it's very, very true.
it is so true. And I don't know, I don't think people realize that. And especially now with, the explosion of Instagram, especially around the beauty, the beauty sector and Sheen and everything is like super cheap. And so, I got to battle not just, what they hear from their friend, but it's what they hear from TikTok and
Definitely. Well, so for your 13-year-old is I have a generation alpha as
yeah,
well. And the beauty products that my little 13, 14-year-old wants to get up an hour early so that she can straighten her hair and put on all of her beauty products.
okay,
Where do
yep,
you get the money to buy all these products? Where do they just appear?
I know.
Every babysitting job means another trip to Ulta.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. That's right.
it's that generation is really, really, and so, you know, I do, teach her read ingredients, and we have to be very careful. So
Yeah,
she gets a lot of all the clean products because I go to shows, I have samples, I know the brands. So, but it's definitely, there's still a long way to go
yeah,
with our beauty and personal care. And so, we're taking the first step with Cleo and Coco, and we hope that, in the next 5 to 10 years, Cleo and Coco and our really authentically clean formulas without any hormone disrupting ingredients will just like take over the category.
yeah.
As
We're going to manifest that.
yes.
Uh, so, I mean, consumer packaged goods, especially, with formulation, I mean, it is a challenge to get into a space that is so competitive, and just really difficult. Like I said, all that formulation, then find the supply chain, your partners, and we've heard some horror stories from other founders who, they've overcome. But it's like, did you have any of like those big challenges that you had to face, or has it been a pretty smooth ride so far for you?
There is nothing smooth. There is nothing smooth about anything that I do ever. I think that there are small little wins and some big wins along the way, and like a divine miracle.
What's been your what's been your biggest, like, oh shit, like, oh, what have I done? Is this the right thing? Or, man, oh shit, that person or that company really just set me back.
Oh, I have so many. I mean, and I think they're very, very normal. I had a manufacturer who, it was during COVID. So, the world really changed when I launched my brand.
Yeah.
And so I think normally I would have flown out and met the manufacturers. And because nobody was going anywhere, everything was, so I had a manufacturer really, really court me. And I worked with them probably 6, 12 months. They developed a beautiful formula for me. Their prices were significantly better. They were courting me so that I would leave my current manufacturer. And because they treated me so well and did such a fantastic job, I decided to make a big PO with them, having
Yeah.
never visited their facility. And our first run was perfect. The second run was an absolute disaster.
Mm.
And they damaged tens of thousands of, like we had to throw out tens of thousands of my components, and
Oh,
just really, really,
they didn't have the right quality controls.
they were a chapstick manufacturer hoping to start to make deodorants. And I guess I hadn't done enough remote research or due diligence. I feel like if I would have met them in person, I would have caught that right away. So they didn't have really the right equipment. They were very, very nice about it. They paid for all the damage, but you can't really pay for running out of inventory,
Right. Yeah.
which can set your business back, significantly. So it took a lot of time to recover from that, because I spent another 6 to 12 months really vetting
Mm.
manufacturers, visiting them in person this time,
Yeah.
and get back to normal life. But I think that these are normal, just these things happen. I
Yeah.
think that I mean, I hope that's going to be the only time we ever have this, but you're always told have, backup manufacturers if
Right.
something goes wrong, and, build a whole network and the supply chain. These things can happen. You
That's
just
right.
have to have checks and balances.
Have that little pool of relationships ready to go. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So what have you discovered about yourself through your journey?
So I think I discovered that I'm a lot more creative than I realized.
Ah,
And I really love the creative process of formulating and putting together like really clean and effective products. I was always a scent person, so I love the textures and the scents, and so I think that kind of that passion and that creativity comes through in the quality of the products that we produce. Um, and I never thought of myself as like a visual designer, or I was always very academic. I did a master's in business, and I never really looked at colors, or I was a scent person, and I was like more of an academic person.
right.
And this category, well, because I kind of um, like we're in the mastige, but it's kind of like almost luxury personal care, so it's
Yeah.
borders on beauty, and beauty is all about the packaging and the
That's
aesthetics.
right.
So we put a lot into our packaging and our
It's
design
beautiful.
and all
Yeah.
of our marketing. Yes,
It's
yes.
it's very elegant. Yeah.
Because,
And the colors, I like the muted palette. I mean, it's a nice palette.
thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So because I really felt that the ingredients are of such high quality, the packaging should reflect that.
Absolutely.
That it's not just your same old drugstore deodorant
That's
that just
right.
took out aluminum. It's just completely re redesigned and re
You're,
formulated the whole category.
yeah.
So
I'm so glad that you said it, because, I own a marketing agency. I've been in brand, a brand strategist. I don't, that's one thing that you obviously get it and looked at it of it's not just the ingredients, it's the whole, it's every touch point, how they perceive. But that is something that I have to work hard to convince other founders, especially in the consumer packaged goods of, I can't tell you how much packaging affects your brand and how you're going to stand out on the shelf. Also, your distribution of, what, if you're high end, you want to be, Walgreens might not be your, you know, the shelf you want to be on unless you're positioned with the other high end brands that they're carrying. You know what I mean? And, but yeah, the fact that you totally get it, that it is packaging and the brand, the colors, it really does make a difference.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. And
absolutely. So, what's been the most rewarding part?
it's really, I think there's definitely a lot along the way, but all the small, tiny wins. The first time you see your product on shelf in store. Wow, I created it. In the very beginning, the thought that like somebody is actually using every day a product that I created, and when we get
Yeah,
emails from customers, especially when I get emails from somebody undergoing chemo, or recovering from cancer, and saying,
that's
thank you
right.
so much. It's so hard to find a deodorant that works, that doesn't have synthetic fragrance, that's not irritating my skin. I that those are the wins that say, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is worth all the chaos.
That's right. Yeah. It's so funny. I meant to also say, you talked about you didn't think you were as creative. One of my favorite quotes, I think it's from Einstein, but he says that creativity is intelligence just having fun. So I think
I
it's
like that.
yeah, because I'm one of those, like I'm more of a number analyst, but yet I appreciate great creative and design and brands and all that, like, and it's like when you're working on that, it's just showing, anytime you're showing that spark of creativity or the appreciation of others around you, that's bringing it's just intelligence having a lot of fun. Yeah.
It's so much fun. That is definitely, I definitely enjoy and have a lot of fun when we get through the struggles of, supply chain and inventory and
Yeah.
quality and all of that. It's really, it's really
And to
fun to
see it
be
on the
such a
shelves, and
creative
then
outlet.
yeah. um so what do you think has been like the most, like an aha moment in your journey since you started the business, of like an insight or something that you're like, oh, this was a breakthrough. I know I'm gonna do something different because of this, or this business, this brand is gonna make it. I'm on the right path. Did you have any ahas like that?
Oh, sure. So, I mean, early on, I got this big yellow. Oh, you can't. This is QVC's The Big Find.
Oh,
So as soon as I launched, I went to this open call for QVC, not really knowing anything about. I didn't know what I was doing.
right.
I saw it. I didn't really know that much about QVC
Yeah.
or CPG. I was just,
You're
I
like, I,
just
I,
was
I got
brand
this
new.
idea. I need to do this. Yeah.
And I got the big tickets, and they put me on, and 6 months later I was there on prime time, The Big Find, with Sean Killinger, who was like their top host.
Yeah.
And they put me on air, and we sold out in like 7 minutes.
Wow.
And so that was just, and this was 2019, I think, right before COVID hit. And so that was like, wow, this
Yeah.
is proof of product. This is proof of demand. We created the category in QVC. And I spent the next couple of years really just, it allowed us, it was just proof of learning all the marketing and building the supply chain and, growing super, super fast. And since then, we've really switched our strategy, and we're now very omni-channel, direct to consumer retails. We have a very big national retail launch coming up in
Oh.
2025, so that's another big win. You
Is
know,
it too early to reveal?
it is a little too early to
Okay.
reveal, but if
Well,
they
we'll be watching.
definitely watch. A lot of beautiful big things happening, which is really, really important because, like, we go back to your little 7-year-old daughter. It's really important for people's overall health
Yeah.
to have access to basic personal care products that are really authentically clean and effective. We never ever wanted to compromise on, like you said, all the different touch points. It
Yeah.
should be, the experience of smelling. I open it and I smell it, and it's wow. It really, it smells good. You feel good that you're doing something better for your body.
Hmm.
You get this, and the textures, and it's effective, because why use it if it's not going to work?
That's right. That's right. Were there any myths or misconceptions you had about starting your own business that you're like, well, that was a lie? Did you run into any of those?
I don't know about lies, but I definitely thought that I would. So, the world changed as soon as I launched,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? So, um, D2C was in a very different position. It was very easy to build a direct to consumer
That's right.
brand and acquire a customer, and retail shut down and everything flipped. I think there was also, you were building a brand, not based on profit but on revenue.
Right.
And so since I launched to today, all of that has changed, right? It's
Yeah.
very expensive to acquire a customer. D2C is still figuring itself out with all of the new acquisition costs. And so retail has definitely opened back up, but it took some time.
Yeah.
And investors have, it's been a very, very, very conservative investor market.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't necessarily a myth. It was just that had I launched in 2016, it would have been a very different, faster
Right. You
growth.
would have had, it would have been more of a retail path forward with a DTC probably. Because we saw that with a lot of our, with our clients on the marketing agency side, where most of the, like 80% of their business was coming from either like mix of wholesale and retail, and 20% was DTC. After 2020, it flipped, and they went from 15 to 20% DTC to it almost saving their business in 2020 and 2021. And now you're right. It's like now it's trying to get back level setting but we're just seeing some of that stuff come through. I think just this year of getting back to that. Now it's almost like 50-50 for a lot of the brands. Retail hasn't overtaken where they were. I don't know if you felt that too. Is it like split for you or?
So it's very, you know, this is where kind of my business school training, it's definitely very, I use all my kind of everything that I've learned. So the idea of, not putting all your eggs in one basket, so
Yeah.
diversified. So omni-channel, right? So we're D2C, we're retail, we have many different channels of reaching the customer. And it makes a lot of sense for something like CPG and especially personal
Right.
care.
Oh, absolutely.
There's many places that you might want to buy your deodorant and your personal care products, and so we want to be available there. And it also just makes sense from a business sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, how do you deal with like the stress and challenges? Do you have any of your own like disciplines or routines that you've adopted to go, okay, I got to stay focused. We got a goal. We've got to, but big things happen, big stressors happen, and you've got kids too. So how do you deal with all that?
So I make sure to try to work out 40 minutes, an hour every morning before I start my day. That really just calms me and energizes me for the day. If I haven't worked out, I definitely feel more stressed. Also, just eating clean.
Mm,
Really, the right foods can give you
that's
energy,
right.
and the wrong foods can kind of drain you, like we've been
Yeah.
discussing. I do have one thing. I shut down for 25 hours every week
Oh, wow.
completely, which is really, I don't know how people live without it. I don't know how I would live without it. So from sundown Friday, so we have Friday night dinner and um, which we really, really look forward to. So there's no phones, a nice bottle of wine and sitting and talking with my kids and my family for hours. It's and a lot of sleep. I can sleep 12 hours.
We need it.
It's so
Yeah.
we need it. So, and it's very hard, come Friday afternoon and I'm in the thick of it and it's intense and I've got intense things going on and you shut it
Yeah.
down. It'll be there when it'll be there Sunday morning. It'll be there Saturday night when I turn everything
That's
back
right.
on.
That's right.
But I'm rested and calmer, and I'm seeing like I've when you sleep on something,
Yeah.
it's not as overwhelming and
And
you handle things better.
that's
So
right.
that
Our mind
definitely
needs
helps.
that reset, especially if big decisions. Sometimes it's, you know, yes, as a CEO, you need to be able to make, be nimble and agile and answer and make decisions very quickly. But I also think there's things that if it affects the brand, the customer experience, uh, anything that changes, I think you need uh, hours or sometimes just that overnight of let me shut down and let me just have it re-present so that you do things with
Yes,
more, focus and clarity versus it just being
yes,
I'm in the moment and if I make this decision, ugh, it'll affect
yes,
stuff.
yes.
Um, what do you, so if you could change two things about your business today, like right off the bat, what two things would you change?
If I could change two things about my business right off the bat, wow. What would I change? I mean, I guess having a co-founder would have, I mean, it has its pros and
Yeah,
cons. Or maybe if I would have brought in more of a senior team earlier, that that maybe that could have, I guess it's maybe the way I allocated resources in the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
I think you learn what's important to spend on and what's not important.
yeah,
So maybe that's, and I've also a lot of those changes I've started to make in the last couple of years. So it's very funny, but for the first couple of years, I didn't really work with a budget, which I'm really ashamed and shocked to say. I had a bookkeeper from the very,
right,
very beginning. And I had kind of in my head, I had an average budget,
right,
but I brought in a fractional finance company and a new bookkeeper. And the first thing we did was really look at all of the
mm,
expenses and start to budget and say, cap marketing here, cap operations here,
right,
fulfillment has to be X percent of sales. It so I wish I had done that sooner.
yeah. So if you had to make the change for that, just bringing in even more like senior, so you can focus on the vision, the growth, the product development, let somebody else kind of deal with the operations. Yeah,
Yes.
I think we hear that most from. I don't know if it has to be a co-founder, but definitely like you know, a chief business officer, chief operating
Right,
officer.
right,
People
right.
always ask. I do a lot of coaching in the startup space, and they're like, "When will I know I need to hire? Like who is going to be my first hire?" And I was like, "Well, one, it just depends on where you find what you love to do. As the owner of the company, the CEO, there's a lot of, we all come at it from whatever our gifts are. I said, but you'll learn really quickly of like things that you might find that what you thought you loved to do, you now hate. And the things that you thought you'd hate to do, you might love, or vice versa. Like you got in it for the passion of the formulation and it's really tapping into a creative passion because it's speaking to your soul, right? But sometimes that now dealing with all like, oh my God, I got to deal with this and this from an operations, it sucks that energy away. So it's like, that you need to tap somebody for that. And that's where we see that a lot in the startup space of that first major hire is going to be probably that number two. It's going to be an operations person that really is kind of watching and managing the business so you can grow and develop what the brand and the culture and the growth strategies and not in the weeds of actually operating the business. And that's
Right. And
and
it's
it's
also
really hard
just,
to find that person. Really
yes.
hard to find.
So I've had very junior people
Yeah.
helping, and it's taken a lot on me. And so, right, so we're really now putting in, it's just gotten too
Yeah.
big to responsibly manage in this way that bigger, more senior people have to come in
Yeah.
and take over.
And just from lessons learned that we've heard from, I can tell you some lessons learned I've had, but also from other founders. Make sure, if you're putting that person in that kind of like key role, they're never going to love your business the way you do, but maybe make sure that they're in some kind of an incentivized program. Their salary is also not just this big salary, because they're going to treat it like they're just an employee, not somebody that kind of has skin in it. So make sure it is an incentive based, because I can tell you I've made that mistake of and they weren't junior people either. So, these were people that were 30 years experience but because I didn't structure their compensation plan to have more skin in it, I got burned. And I've heard my story retold back to me from some major, startups I mean, one of it's one of our clients, he's in the software tech space, bioscience, and his board recommended these two, high experienced, very expensive, that came from like Coca-Cola, and they came from another like, big brand, CPG, and they were there for a year, there was no value, no growth, no nothing. They just took basically a very expensive salary, but the business didn't move forward at all. So don't be deceived. I know you're dealing with junior people that do kind of, you got to spend a lot of time with, but you're going to have to also be leery of even people that come with very experience, because it's not an easy road to find that person.
So we actually I just got into an accelerator program.
Fantastic.
Really fantastic. So if I could have done that a few years ago, it's interesting though, because the timing though was perfect, because I have the most incredible
Yeah,
support. I have 40 or 50 mentors from CPG who have
yeah,
done this many times, who I now can call up and say, I'm stuck on this. I have a problem with
that's
this.
right.
And they're just gathering around me to make sure that, this big retail launch is as successful as possible. That the guidance, the support system, and access now to resources
It's
is
invaluable. It's so priceless.
invaluable.
Yeah.
It's so priceless. Being a part of this community has just been the greatest
Yes,
gift.
I've been involved in a couple Acceler, and I can't, like, I'm so glad you said that, because I cannot shout that enough, especially for, women in business and female founders. It's hard for us to find a community sometimes, but these accelerators to get, I was in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business. I had 40 or 50 coaches that were surrounding, and that was in
Yes.
2020. My cohort still meets up once a month online. Like, we
Oh,
are
nice.
still, connected and each other's cheerleaders. So they'll stay with you. I mean, these are people that will be in your community through the lifetime of your business.
And there's skin in the
Yeah.
game, because now they're investors. They
Uh,
really invested, and they have a small percentage of your business. So yes, absolutely. I don't think they do it as much for, they definitely they have that
mhm.
incentive, but they're just the kindest human
Yeah.
beings, just supporting and giving and
Oh,
giving.
that's fantastic. So if we met a year from now, Susanna, what would we be celebrating? 1 year from now. So next November, 2025, what would be, we'd be sitting down having cocktails somewhere. What would we be doing? Cheering to.
Oh, we're going to be accelerating the rapid growth.
Uh-huh.
The second big retail launch,
Ah,
the
very.
third big retail launch, the fact that we have made, that we are taking over the category and giving consumers products that they deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. Being
That we
being the first in category. I know you're not the only one, but the first that's effective would be, because right now I don't think there's anything out there that seems to that seems to work. Um, what do you think our listeners and watchers, viewers, what do you think they'd be most surprised to learn about you? That's not on your, it's not on your LinkedIn, it's not on your website, but just something interesting that people would be surprised to find out about you.
Oh my gosh. That's not on that, right? What would they be most surprised? Well, maybe the shutting down for 24
Oh
hours.
yeah,
Um, that I'm like observant,
and diligent on that.
spiritual,
Yeah,
religious person. Yeah, that's not, it's definitely not common in the world that I'm
yeah,
in, that I'm doing. There's a lot of shows over the weekends that I have to do a lot of juggling because I won't be at that show, but so so maybe that's surprising.
that's
That somebody you can be true to your
yeah.
values, and you can set boundaries and still do
That's
everything.
right. That's right. What I was going to ask another, if you had to sum up your entrepreneurial journey in just one word, your founder journey, what would that word be?
I think I'd say, well, I'm going to give it two words. They're really a creative challenge,
Ah,
creative outlet.
I love it.
It's been a it's a fun
Yeah,
ride. It's stressful, but you really learn a lot about yourself, your strengths.
yeah. It's like
Um,
founder journey is huge self discovery. About like we become way more aware of ourselves.
Definitely.
So speaking of that, and I love that answer, the creative outlet, creative challenge. We have asked hundreds of founders that, and we have not had a repeat. And this is yet like another. It just shows we all have our own, even though we have similar challenges, our ahas with the lessons that we learn. We come much more introspective, but we all have a different word that describes our journey and our path. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. I'd love to see a list of some of
Yeah,
those words.
we are coming up the year end. We usually kind of highlight all the words that we've that have come up over the course of the year. So we might have
I
to do
can't
that
wait to do
again.
that.
Do like
Yes.
the top words. Um, okay, so and you kind of alluded to it. I'm just curious of, so what's a trait or a characteristic or something that you really like about yourself that you wish other people would recognize more?
That's a wow. Um, I think I guess it's going to go back to what would that I want people to recognize more. You
I know.
know,
It's like
have to
what do
really
I
think.
love about myself that I wish other people, we always have these like shadows and these, um,
I think that people underestimate me a lot.
ah, yeah. So you're
I,
more of
I
a formidable, you know, leader that they don't recognize.
Yes, I think people underestimate my abilities, and I think all my life. I think the reason why I went to business school was like because nobody took me so seriously, and I said, no, I'm a serious
Yeah.
person, and I'm capable, and um,
Oh,
so I still think that um, it takes a little bit of time for people to recognize
that's
that.
right. That's right. Um, what is the best advice that you have received from? I mean, you have all these mentors and advisors. What's the best advice that you've received that you want to share with other founders that are listening?
You just have to keep going.
Just do it.
It's that resilience. I think it's that resilience. It's so much more challenging than you could ever expect. Um, you, but it's you just have to add up all those little wins,
That's
right?
right.
It's the
And I
resilience.
think you
Keep going.
you kind of said it too. I don't think you need to make sure that you celebrate even the smallest of wins and recognize that. I don't think we do that enough. And the fact that I love that you were like, yeah, we were on the shelf. We've got, we made it here. We did it. Like all those little wins need to be recognized and cheered and celebrated among the team that got you there. And I just, I know I don't do it enough, but I try to. It's like I need to remember or need to give people shout outs because it's so important. The littlest can keep you going.
You do have to remember that because we have to keep looking forward and making sure that the next step is perfect and the next step is
Mm-hmm.
successful. And so, like, as each challenge gets bigger and bigger, you you have to realize, but look where we came from. We overcame the challenges that are behind us, and we're going to keep
We're gonna just keep going. We gotta keep
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 going.
going. Oh well, this
You
is
can do
just keep
it.
doing it. Well, I love thank you, Suzannah, for sharing your story, and I love all the tip, especially the do an accelerator, um, and shut down. Like give that and stay true to that discipline, to your values. You can make that happen. I love that. Where can people connect with you, find your product, purchase your product? Tell us how we can
So
help you.
you can find us at Cleo and Cleo Coco.com. That's the easiest way. I mean, we have social channels at Cleo and Coco Natural on Instagram and TikTok. You can buy us everywhere. Amazon direct to consumer. We're on Target.com, Thrive Market, really wherever you want to buy digitally, you can find us, and soon you'll be finding us when you walk into some very major retail
I
doors.
love
And
it.
then, um, and if you want to connect with me personally, also, you could find my team can can connect you through Instagram or LinkedIn, of course. I'm Suzannah Raff at LinkedIn and Cleo and Coco on LinkedIn, and love to hear from customers, love to hear from
Yeah.
co-founders, people interested in business. And one thing that I look forward to that I'm gaining from the accelerator is giving
Mm,
back, right?
that's
To be
right.
able to give back to other entrepreneurs, to other female founders,
It's so important. Yeah,
to
we got to
so
build our
yeah,
community. That's right.
yes, building that community and support system,
Uh, and now
supporting each
yeah, that's
other.
right. Before we go, I forgot to ask the most important question because and I can't believe I spaced it. It happens. The name. Where did the name come? Are these your kids' names or like where does this, Cleo and Coco? I love the names.
Thank you. So it is not my kid's name. I really spent a lot of time trying to figure out if I could incorporate my kid's name or a way to play with my kids' names. And of course, years later, in the middle of the night, oh, I could have named it after my kids this way. Um, and all the hundreds of names that I've thought of since then. But it was meant to be Cleo and Coco. So really, Cleopatra was our inspiration
Mm,
because she was so known for like just her really clean beauty regimen, and she used charcoal and we use charcoal,
okay.
and she's a strong, powerful woman. So Cleopatra for Cleo, and then Coco for kind of coconut oil and again natural ingredients,
Nice.
and it tested really well. Everybody loved the
Yeah,
name,
I
so
love it.
it
That's why I
worked.
was like, I wonder if it's her kids. But I love the fact that it's Cleopatra and then Coco for coconut, all the ingredients. So um, that's amazing. But thank you for hanging out with us today.
For having
And
me.
I love the conversation. And for everyone listening or watching us, thank you for joining us. This podcast will be available on all the pods. So subscribe to Hello Chaos, give us a like, a comment, share, or a really good review. Help us grow and build a more connected entrepreneurial community. Hello Chaos is one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That is Orange Whip, WIP for Work in Progress. Orange Whip is a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. We're in 3 South Carolina cities today, looking to expand to a lot of markets next year. Every community needs an Orange Whip. We're a one-stop content hub just for founders with a dynamic roadmap to help them navigate their local entrepreneurial community and all the resources. We do curated calendars for founders and entrepreneurs that it's just a one-stop. We curate all the calendars so you can look and go, oh, these are the events I probably need for networking. There are deadlines and applications for incubators and accelerators in the markets, deadlines and applications for grants in the local markets. So, and then we also tell real, raw, unvarnished stories. And in the Orange Whip zines, we do feature local founders and entrepreneurs, but then we talk to people nationally through the podcast to hear a much broader founder community. So that's all it is. 1 email to join. It's completely free. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or support us and sponsor us, send us an email to hello@orangewhip.com. Y'all, thank you for tuning in to Hello Chaos. It is where AHA meets oh shit, and we will see you again next week.